Okay, thank you all for coming this evening. We're very excited to have you. My name is Emma Marsh. I'm the executive director of Not Today. And put simply, our mission is to protect children from sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. Our work is mainly focused on equipping prevention professionals to be able to give them the resources and tools needed so that they can create high quality prevention programs in their own communities. However, we always have had a soft spot for parents because ultimately prevention starts at home. It starts with the conversations that you have with your own children. And so, any opportunity that we have to get the word out about how to have that conversation, as best as possible. We love to bring you those opportunities. So we are so excited to have Kimberly King here with us this evening. And before I introduce her, just a couple of ground rules for us all. You are muted upon entry, but this will be interactive. So the hope is that we can get some back and forth. So feel free to come off mute at any point to interact with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And then also, as you enter, please put your name and email in the chat. Okay, without further ado, I will introduce our wonderful speaker for this evening. Kimberly King is a mom of three, a survivor, a kindergarten teacher, and a certified sexual abuse prevention facilitator with Cypria and darknesstolight.org. She's also a trained sexual assault crisis counselor. She dedicates her time to empowering families and communities by training adults and children in prevention strategies and serves as a trusted consultant, advisor, and media resource in the field. She is the author of the best-selling book, I Said No, a kid-to-kid guide for keeping private parts private, as well as Body Safety for Young Children, Empowering Caring Adults, and I Said No to Hugs, a kid-to-kid guide to consent. Kimberly holds a master's in early childhood education from Wheelcock College and a bachelor's in child development and family studies from the University of Maine. Her work has been featured in leading publications and platforms, including the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, Harvard Graduate School of Education, Journal of Sex Abuse, School Library Journal, the Chicago Tribune, India Times, Parents Magazine, Child Mind Institute, Social Work Now, Teach Magazine, U.S. News and World Report, Newsweek, Pop Sugar, The New York Post, and more. As you can see, Kimberly is incredibly well versed in this field. She's also made news appearances on ABC, NBC, and Fox. We are just so thrilled to have her this evening to talk about body safety for young children and how you can start these conversations at home. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and share some really great body safety education tips and strategies and things that you can take away and take action today. So we'll just jump right in. Um, I wanted to start with what is body safety because sometimes people get confused. So when I teach this topic, I try to explain that body safety is really about parents and all who care for children. And those people want to learn how to reduce the risks and really empower and educate their kids. So they're adults that take action by minimizing those risks and implementing strategies. But it's also adults educating and empowering kids with body safety strategies and sharing age appropriate resources because we can't just put this on the kids and expect that they're going to read a book and be able to ward off a predator. It really is kind of like a circle between the parents, the children, and any care providers. So that is why I wrote my new book, which was on the cover. So that was kind of the motivation behind my new book because I wanted parents, teachers, and all who care for kids to really have an outline on how to do this. So what it is essentially teaching body parts, consent, boundaries, private part rules, what if scenarios. That's a really important piece of how I teach body safety, who are safe adults, what are exit plans, what are code words, and how to be safe on and offline. So it sounds like a lot, but it's broken down into lots of parts. And I think that's really one way to tackle this topic is just take it piece by piece. One thing that scares people away from this topic is that frequently they think that it is scary or like icky. Maybe their kids are going to start to get wild ideas and do things that they don't want them to do. And sometimes they also think that it is sex ed, and it is definitely not sex ed. We're not talking about sex whatsoever, except the body part names, and that's about it. So it should be perfectly fine to include in any, early childhood curriculum because it is very basic and appropriate for the age group. So, why does all this matter? These are just some of the statistics. I hate to overwhelm people with statistics. And if you really want to learn all of those, you can check out all of the websites I'll share with you and my book. There's lots of statistics in there. But the ones that are really important to me right now are that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will experience child sexual abuse before the age of 18. We know that 90% of these cases are usually somebody that the child already knows, already trusts. 70% of kids don't ever tell anyone, which is a startling statistic for me. And that's something I think we're making a lot of headway in. Children are now and always have abusing each other. So there is child to child sexual abuse and sibling abuse that is rarely talked about, but it's a huge problem. And that statistic has gone up. I believe it accounts for 68% of all abuse now is that type of abuse. Kids in early childhood, so kids between the ages of 3 and 8, are at an elevated risk for this type of thing to happen to them, which is why parents really need to reduce the risks and understand this topic. The online, and I could do a whole seminar on this, but the online risk has multiplied at like a wild hot fire rate. And just this year, no, 2023, there were 300 million reports of CSAM, which is child sexual abuse material. We used to refer to that as child pornography. Predators now are gathering images from various websites that we go on and where we share pictures of our children. They're able to use AI and generative AI and make terrible things. So we'll talk about that more later. But there is a lot going on that many parents need to know about, and this is why it matters. One of the most important things is that 95% of child sexual abuse is preventable. And when you think about it, that's an incredible, incredible statistic, one of my favorites, that if we know the statistics and we empower our families, our kids, and our communities, it really does reduce the risk. And one of the questions when I teach in person is I will ask people, well, why do you think that is? So, do we have anybody that might want to chime in and unmute or put in the chat maybe why they think that is? Why does having kids educated and empowered families, why does that reduce the risk? Any brave ones? Well, I'll keep going and then I'll call on a couple of people later when we get to more questions. But the reality of this situation is that predators are looking for kids that don't know anything. If they know their body parts, if they know who their safe adults are, if they know what's okay and not okay, and if they can identify their feelings, and if they understand this topic, then they are just not a good target. So that predator, that person will move on to somebody else. So it's really an important thing to be able to say, like, I have started talking about this with my kids and I will continue to talk about it because it does protect them. Um, so this is sort of like a graphic of the things that I think are really important for people that work in this field and for people that work with children. And I talk about this a lot in my book, being able to identify those red flag grooming behaviors. When parents and educators and caregivers know what grooming looks like and what the techniques are that can be used, and they're very manipulative, and often adults that are well versed in this can even be tricked or duped by an expert groomer. So knowing what these grooming behaviors look like is key. training and resources at home, at school, at church, at all community places is critical. And one of the things I work with, Erin from Erin's Law, she has passed her curriculum, her law, and I believe 38 states now, and it really requires schools to take action here. And I'll talk about that in the next slide. For caregivers, for teachers, for any adult, we have to think about social media because of the risk now of AI. So, removing all locating, identifying school accounts, taking down all the pictures of kids, because, like I said, predators take screenshots from your Facebook. They tell us that on interview. They take your pictures from Facebook, from Instagram, from wherever, and they use them to create videos and share them. And that's not something you want. Prevention policies need to be in place for every child care facility, every place where children are. And you really have to ask those hard questions of your schools, of your child care providers. What steps do you take to protect children? That's a key question. You want to make sure that those people have a sexual abuse prevention policy, that they have training, and that they have hiring procedures that protect kids also. So FBI background checks, everybody thinks like, oh, if we get an FBI background check, that's good. We know the person is safe. And that's an important thing to do just to make sure you don't hire a criminal. But many child sexual abusers never get caught. So they're not going to be on the FBI list. So doing extensive questions, interviewing, reference checks, various techniques and asking those people that you're interviewing about the topic, seeing sort of like what they know, what they don't know, really digging in before you hire somebody, and then monitoring that person after you hire is critical. And then also like prevention and action. So well-trained employees, making sure that you're testing their knowledge on the topic and they're following the rules and the procedures of your child care facility, of your school, of your youth group, whatever, like simple things like open doors, dropping in policies, the rule of two, and including teachers and families together sharing resources and just working together as a whole really helps reduce the risk. And I mentioned Aaron's Law before. So just to clarify, Aaron's Law in Connecticut, every state is a little bit different on how they have passed it and implemented it. But where I live, it requires public schools to provide age-appropriate sexual abuse prevention education. And here in Connecticut, it was signed in 2014. Erin has a wonderful website, erinslaw.com, and tons of resources. And now she has a free curriculum. So there are no excuses for any school to not teach, empower, and protect their children because now the curriculum is there altogether and it's free. So basically, students K through 12 learn how to identify child sexual abuse and how to report it. Who is the safe adult at school and what is the procedure? School personnel have to learn about it and have to be trained, and parents and guardians also learn about the warning signs and how to get help. So it's a critical piece of law that has been passed here and is slowly being implemented in many states. So hold on, go back. Uh-oh, we missed one. Pause. Okay, so grooming. In my book, I have, I think, 10 different ways that a person who wants to abuse a child might go about it, giving various strategies. And I'm just going to talk about a few of them here, just the more obvious ones, so that you can really think about it and see if, anything like this has happened to you. One of them is time alone with a child. So anybody offering extra things in isolation with your child. So maybe offering tutoring or babysitting or nap time, changing diapers, any time when that person might be alone with your child can be risky. And to protect yourself, your kids and your children always want to have two care providers with them during any activity. So you try to avoid time alone with the child if you can. Extra gifts. Is your baseball coach giving your child, extra coaching time, ice cream, a baseball bat, a new glove, things like that, rides home? Are they doing anything free for you? Anything free, anything extra that is just happening to your child is a red flag. Is there anybody in your life that is overly touchy? Sometimes predators try to sort of desensitize children with touch. So it might be a normal pat on the back, then it moves to hugging and rubbing and sitting and touching. And the next thing you know, your child's involved in some type of a game that involves crossing boundaries and private parts. So it's really important that you review body safety rules and you are on the lookout for this type of person. And if you see it, note it and avoid that person. And then sometimes predators target people that are going through hard times. This can be, online if someone is posting about how depressed they are or they're anxious and they don't have anybody that understands them. Sometimes that predator will go after a person who is under duress. It could be maybe somebody going through a divorce or somebody going through a rough circumstance, a life change. So oversharing online or with anybody really can result in you attracting the wrong type of person. And that is something you really have to look out for as well. But one of the biggest things with kids, and pretty much standard in the cases that I interviewed people for my new book, and just the research says that most of grooming involves some type of secret keeping. So I wanted to share with you two of my favorite books. Some Secrets Should Never Be Kept by Janine Sanders is an excellent resource on this and very kid friendly, and it kind of walks you through, you know, what, well, in this case, what a red flag secret would look like. And then also, this is a new book. This is brand new called The Family of Secrets, a beginner's book to body safety. This goes really in detail on different types of secrets, the difference between a surprise and a secret, and it's really well done and illustrated. So the kids in my class love this book. I read this to them last week. So, red flag secrets are those that we would say are like about private parts, but the grooming part of this might start with a simple secret like, hey, don't, if this is maybe a babysitter, hey, don't tell your mom that I let you stay up past your bedtime. Don't tell your mom I let you have candy before bed. Little testing secrets let that person know that your child will keep a secret. So we want to really start from the beginning teaching all kids that just secrets are not
It just
okay and they are not safe. Did I have a question? Nope. Thought I heard somebody ask a question. Okay. So anyway, these are really great resources. I have a link to these at the end, so you can also scan that and hopefully find all this. So just to recap, on the online topic, think about the photos that you're posting and the information you're sharing at your school, your advocacy center. Like you have to stop sharing photos of children's faces. It's really just not safe. I say this to everybody. I say this to the school that I work at. It's just after being at some of these conferences and learning about the online risks to children and AI, I just say it over and over again. So the FBI put out a warning about this, about predators and sextortion. And there are very simple ways of just sharing your information without posting the pictures of the kids' faces. Also, we want to be kind of aware of what are we wearing when we're in some of these pictures. Like, am I wearing a t-shirt that says my school name and then somebody just Googles it and finds out, oh, well, there's the address, and then they have maps, and next thing you know, you have people driving by that shouldn't. And also cell phones in schools, at any facility that cares for kids. We had an episode here in Westport, Connecticut of a adult, a camp counselor who, and they all have their phones, in the classrooms or at camps, but this person was scrolling on his phone, looking at child sexual abuse material while he was supposed to be supervising children. And another staff member who was trained, I think they were trained by Darkness to Light because they do that type of training at the YMCA. That other staff member saw it, reported it, and that person was immediately fired and charges are coming. So we don't really know what people do on their phones when they're at work and when they're supposed to be watching children or teaching children. And we don't really want to have like full on access to cameras in the classroom and at youth group organizations. So at my school, we have sort of these small phones that they're not like iPhones. They're almost like dumb phones, but we can take pictures and share them with the parents. They don't get posted online. There's no apps, there's no nothing. It's just simple emails and texting to the parents, and that's all we're allowed to do on the phone. And that's very clear from the beginning when we're hired. So we have one of those safety policies in place. Okay, and so does anybody have any questions about any of that? I just threw a lot right on you. If you do, you can post it in the chat and I will try to answer it at the end, or you can ask questions at the end as well. So, what the kids need to know. Number one is the language, the correct, anatomically correct words. There's no reason why there should be any shame or weirdness or uncomfortableness with these words. The uncomfortableness comes from us because we have attachments with the words, because maybe we didn't learn the right words, or maybe we feel awkward about teaching our kids these words, but knowing these words protects them. I was a kindergarten teacher my first year of teaching, and I tell this story in the book. I had a little girl come up to me and tell me that her dad took her cookie, and I was just kind of busy and there was 20 kids in my class, and I was like, "Oh, well, tell dad not to take your cookie." I had no idea what she meant. And she came back to me again the next day and she told me that her dad took her cookie and it hurts. And so then I started to wonder, like, what's the cookie? And I just said to her, "Well, can you tell me what your cookie is?" And she pointed to her private area, and I felt horrible because I had missed it. I had missed her report. She was so brave and she came and told me, but I didn't know her word and she didn't know my word, and we missed each other. So that extra day of her being with her dad and being abused, to this day, I still feel so guilty that I did not know that word. So that's why these words are so important to teach kids. And even when they're like, 18 months old, when they're just developing their language, you might as well just teach them the correct words because it will protect them. And then normalizing talking about this. So start talking about this at a very early age. These are the books I recommend that are kid friendly and appropriate. So your whole body book is really appropriate for anybody like 18 months and up, but there is really detailed information in your whole body book about your whole body. So it's a really great book. You can learn about your private parts, you can learn about your ear. It's beautifully illustrated, kid friendly, and it's one of my favorites. And then these other two, all about vulvas and vaginas and all about penises, are also excellent and very gently illustrated, not icky, easy to read, and really, I think appropriate for anybody, I'd say like 5 to 10. So those are great books that I use when I teach body safety. And another part of the language piece is helping kids really learn the language of feeling. So doing daily check-ins with them, asking them how they're feeling, giving them different vocabulary words to help them identify the feelings that they're feeling. And this little graphic here in the middle is in my Body Safety for Young Children. We talk about, how sometimes kids just know a few words that, and maybe that doesn't describe how they're feeling exactly. So building that vocabulary and teaching them to listen to their body because their body sends signals. This is one of my favorite books on that, called Listening to My Body. A great book to read. So we want to really make sure that they understand this language too, and teach them how to identify and express their feelings. And you can do that with role playing and you can ask help from a safe adult. Like you can practice saying, well, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Who should I tell? And just kind of like role play that a little bit. Talk about the feelings and what they should do with them if they have feelings that are unsafe or scared or worried. Where's the next one? Okay, so the second thing the kids need to know is boundaries and consent. So making sure they practice, what yes and no is in different scenarios. And also for parents and anybody that works with kids, we have to enforce our no's because they learn from us. So if we give a no on something like, no, you can't have a snack before dinner, then we need to stick to that and keep that because then they start to learn that they can negotiate and lawyer and manipulate us into changing our mind. And that is not something we want to teach. We want to teach firm boundaries. Yes is yes, no is no. And reinforcing that all of these feelings and boundaries are valid and that at the end of the day, kids are the bosses of their body, so they can say yes and they can say no to things like hugs and sharing and all of that. So, my favorite books on this topic, which are perfect for anybody like 2 to 8 years old, Don't Hug Doug. He doesn't like it. This is an adorable book. And then Yes and No, the first conversation about consent, very cute, well done, beautifully illustrated. And then this is my new book, I Said No to Hugs, which was really inspired by my niece who would not hug me and it really drove me crazy, but I kind of like gave her space and it really is a story of all the little scenarios that she did to escape my hugs, and then I gave her space and eventually she wanted to hug me on her own. And that's what we want kids to learn how to be, advocates for their body and find their voice and speak up. My slides are slow. This is another brand new book which Sarah Casper wrote, The Kids and Consent Curriculum. So her big thing is it's more than yes and no conversations, and she gets into it perfect for anybody that teaches in the classroom or does like maybe mini lessons in therapy or even a child advocacy center. This book has lesson plans, conversations, thinking points, and it's excellent. So you can practice these conversations in a simple way, like with your kids. Do you like hugs? Have maybe at the dinner table, go around and ask a question that everybody can answer in a yes or no. That's one of the very basic fun things that we do every day at school at the lunch table. We do yes, no questions. And then we get into different topics and other scenarios because talking about it and practicing it and modeling consent is really the way that kids learn this. So I'll keep going. Does anybody have any questions? No questions yet. Okay. My slides are slow. Another critical piece of what the kids need to know is who are the safe adults. So the power of safe adults is critical, and you want to be able to help your children identify 3 to 5 safe adults. Safe adults cannot be, like their friend. They have to be somebody that's over 18, and they cannot be a dog. A lot of kids will say that their pets are their safe adults, and they get a little confused when they're younger on that, but it has to be an adult over 18 who can actually help them. We want to reinforce with kids that they can always tell their safe adult anything, no matter what. We want to create open door policies in our classrooms and at home that have safe adults on the ready. We want to train safe adults to know what to do. So you can't just say, okay, Uncle Bobby, you're going to be our safe adult. You want to let them know what this means and talk about body safety and what they need to do if your child ever calls them and says they need to talk to them, or they have an exit plan they need to implement, or they're not safe. They need to know what to do. Always review that it is never a child's fault. Any of this, anything having to do with this topic is never a child's fault, and it is always okay to tell. And then practice scenarios. So practice something like, okay, so you were at school and you felt unsafe. Who could you call? What would you do? And just really figure out who these key people are in your children's life and start practicing these scenarios. What's interesting about this is that the person that you think might be a green flag adult, a safe adult, might not be a safe adult to your child. And for me, this is actually a funny story. We were trying to figure out our safe adult list, and I figured my brother would be one of them. And my son said, "Nope, he's not a safe adult." I started to freak out, wondering, like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And it was actually just that my brother had done a bit of speeding and didn't make my kids wear their seatbelts. So he became unsafe driver, but he's still a safe adult. But it was just kind of funny that they labeled him that way. And then also number four, body safety rules. So teaching kids the essentials. You don't have to read the whole, oh, and this is the secret, the sneak peek. This is the new cover of the I Said No book, which is going to be coming to the market in September, I think September 6th. But you can buy them today. I believe they're in the store, and there is a coupon that anybody that came to this can use to buy an original I Said No book. But anyway, I say in the I Said No book that we really don't want to teach this all at once. We want to teach this in pieces. So the I Said No book is kind of chopped up into 10 sections, and we want to take each section, one day at a time or every other day. You don't want to sit down and read the whole book for, an hour and a half and overwhelm your kids. So you want to take this slowly. And then I made a new visual for everybody, my magic body safety rule. So this is something you might hang in your child advocacy center, your school. And this is something you can go back to and revisit and sort of teach this, month by month. So maybe in September, we're going to talk about secrets. And maybe in November, we're going to talk about consent and hugs. And maybe we're going to move along each month with one topic and just teach this slowly so that everybody is comfortable. That is key. Okay, so what the adults need to know, the ways to reduce risk, the everyday strategies that I'm talking about now and that are located in my new book, Body Safety for Young Children. And then also role playing what is safe versus unsafe and what if scenarios. The I Said No book and Body Safety for Young Children have a number of what if scenarios like this one. And I'm going to share with you this one and why these work so well. So, you can make a what if scenario about anything. It doesn't have to be about body safety, but here's an example. What if you were on the bus and somebody is pulling your hair and bugging you? What should you think, say, do? So ask this of your child and see what types of ideas they come up with. The research shows that when kids are involved in the solutions and sort of like figuring out the plan, they are more likely to remember the information and take action on the plan. So instead of just telling them what to do, we want to get them involved in thinking about what to do for a scenario like this. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm going to keep going. And I wanted to share with you this because this actually I got an email yesterday about this topic, so I thought I would add it to this little workshop. If you have children at home who are playing Xbox, Roblox, any of these games that kids get into, this is a conversation that is really important to have before you let your kids on any type of video games. I had a mom share with me that one of her children was invited to a condo room, and a condo room is something, this is part of the Roblox game. It's like a separate room that somebody can invite you to, and it's graphic, inappropriate, adult context. So it's really gross. And a 7-year-old got into one of these rooms. This is an article from the BBC that was a couple of years old, but the graphics are blurred, so I just used this. This happens all day long on Roblox and other games, and many parents don't know about this. So try to have a little what if about video games. What if you're playing on your Xbox and you're playing Roblox and an online friend invites you into a room? What would you think, say, do? And so maybe talk about like, think, well, I don't know this person. This person is a stranger. What would you say? Your child might say, "No, I'm not going to do that because I don't know you." Or maybe they say yes, and then talk through that problem and figure out a plan for what to do if this happens. These games are full of the little chat rooms. There are messaging, Discord, various apps that adults can message your children without you even knowing. And so this is just an example of one of them. And it's interesting. This is a 7-year-old. So a grown man is asking a 7-year-old for a photo of her face and then a picture without her shirt on. And then, talking about secrets only between me and you, blah, blah, blah. And then her father happened to walk in, and her father's a police officer, had the IP address, and this person was arrested. So, but not everybody is standing over the shoulder of your 7 or 8-year-old while you're playing Roblox or while you're playing any video game. So it's really important to really educate parents and anybody who works with kids about the dangers of this. This is something that happens quite a bit and many people don't know. And I recommend that anybody that's got kids, before you buy the phones or the computers or the tablets, that you make a family online safety contract. You can twist this to be like an online school contract as well, because kids are online at school all the time. So, teaching the kids about respecting themselves online, who they're not gonna share their information online. They're not gonna send any messages or any pictures, anything naked to anybody, period. And if somebody does ask them to do something inappropriate or unsafe, they're going to tell right away and they're never going to be in trouble. They will always get help from a safe adult, and they're not going to share their location with anybody except their safe adults. And then the parents have a part here too. Parents are going to be open and honest with their communication. They're going to listen and they're going to help. They're going to expect mistakes because kids will make mistakes online just like adults do. And then no judgment. You can tell us anything, and safety is our first concern. And then you sign and date it, put it up on the fridge, and then when there is a problem, because there will be, you can refer to this and have teachable moments and help your kids without judgment and keep everybody safe. This is a QR code that will take you over to Bark Technology if you are interested in really learning a whole lot about online safety and taking a class and reading blog posts and watching some excellent videos. You can scan that and go over there. They have Bark phones, Bark watches, all sorts of products, monitoring and everything. So that's what I recommend. Instead of giving your child an iPhone or any phone, I've just read too much and seen too much, and I take my word for it. Just check them out. It's really a great service and a great resource to dig into. Okay. And then having to do with online safety or just in-person safety, what to do if a child tells you. Now, when I had an I had an event when I was a kid. We had a babysitter who tried to get us to do things. And I remember, and I think, maybe 5. My mother said to me, like, if anybody tries to touch your private parts, tell me. That is all she said. And so knowing that I could tell is why I told. Many kids don't know that they can tell. But if they do, it takes an incredible amount of bravery. So make sure that you thank them for telling you and try to be calm. Receiving a report, especially if it's from a family member or a student, your gut and your nerves just go through the roof, and your instinct might be to get mad or to scream or to get loud or ask a million questions. You don't want to do that. You want to try to keep it calm and thank them for telling you, and think about other things that you could say to make them safe. Like, you're in a safe place, I am here, I'm listening, things like that. Just affirming and caring for them. Make sure you say that you believe them. Tell them you believe them and let them know you're going to listen and you're going to help because you're a safe adult. And make sure you tell them it is not their fault. It's really hard thing to do, to tell. Um, this is a great book. Tell somebody. There is a new book too now. I think it's volume two, but excellent book on telling, why kids don't tell, and how to tell. So check that out if you get a chance. So we talked a lot about, body safety and the statistics. And the statistic on telling is that most kids don't tell. And so the question is why? And so I don't know if anybody wants to add in the chat or take their or go off silent, but happy to take some thoughts on why kids don't tell. I know it's, first of all, can be super scary to tell, and sometimes kids don't even know that anything wrong is happening. And there's a lot of that. But while I was writing Body Safety for Young Children, I interviewed my friend Sharia Shoatz from Buddy Speaks. It's a nonprofit where they're helping kids heal from abuse. And I was interviewing her about her story. And she has a child who was abused by their nanny, their live-in nanny. And so she told me, yeah, that's really true. Because their abuser threatened them. This is exactly what I'm about to say. Thank you, Emma. So the nanny who lived with them for 2 years spent 1 year filling the void of my friend who was single and divorced and having a hard time. So she became like, irreplaceable. She started volunteering at school. She got to know all of Sharia's friends. She was like part of all of the community and the church, and the kids loved her and everything. And then her son just started having problems, like bathroom problems and not wanting to sleep in his own bed and seemed anxious. And he never reported to her what was going on. It was going on for about a year. And eventually, the nanny got a different job and left. And I think within a week of nanny leaving, her son told what happened. And so it's like the threats that this child was getting, threats to the family, threats to pets, just like horrible, horrible threats and emotional abuse from the nanny, who was a female. The child couldn't even consider telling because that child was scared that nanny was going to kill mom or kill their dog. So it definitely can be incredibly hard to tell. Also, sometimes kids don't know who to trust. Like if it's too close to home, maybe they don't feel comfortable telling mom. That's why having those other safe adults and really teaching that is important too. Okay. So, just a minute to reflect here. If there's anybody that would want to share anything they have learned or might feel confident sharing in the chat that they might add at home or at their school, feel free to post that in the chat or get yourself off the mic if you want, off of silent. Um, I've tried to share like my favorite resources here, which I think are full of really great actionable steps. And books are a great way to just make this part of a normal conversation. So, starting early and keeping it light and having those judgment-free zones for kids. Oh yeah, that's a good point. In the chat, just kids being scared that they'd be taken away from their family or that they'd also break up their family or create, more drama for their family, or maybe the abuser might target a sibling and they're trying to protect the sibling. I've talked to a few survivors that had that happen. So really just getting started on this early and making it part of daily conversations and keeping it light and keeping it real is the way to go here, and sharing all of this with your friends and with your family, because when people know that you're talking about this, you're teaching this, it is a layer of protection. I wanted to share some more ideas that you could use to normalize the topic. And I have three great videos here that one, well, they're not actually videos. The one on the left, yes, they are videos, but that one's going to play and the other two aren't. These are screenshots. But if you go on YouTube and look up red flag secrets, that is a video specifically about secrets that is based on the I Said No book. Then one of my favorite ones is the Pantosaurus video for kids. This is perfect for like preschool age. It's a cute little song just about body safety rules and dinosaurs keeping their pants on. And then there are a whole series of body safety songs, perfect for kids 3 to 11. And, one way sometimes kids learn through, auditory processing. So it's great to have a song that will help you remember some of the things that you've learned and reinforce those lessons. So you can go over to YouTube and watch these three. You can do that tonight. These would be three great steps to watch and share with all of your friends. They're easy to watch, they're kid friendly, and this dinosaur video will even make you laugh. One thing that I like to share with people is so for like your offices or your schools or your churches to have visual aids because we need to have this topic and these rules kind of like front of mind. So are there other ways to greet children? Yes. You can say hi, you can do a fist bump, you can do elbows, knuckles, you can ask for a hug, you can handshake, you can air hug, you can say hello. Giving kids those options and having visual aids so that they understand that really physical touch is their choice. And friendly, happy ways to just sort of review these basic body safety rules, make it a whole lot easier. So we want to teach the rules, model consent, give choices, and give safe spaces. Safe spaces means kids are safe, they're monitored, the environment is developmentally appropriate, kids are always observable. There are always two adults in the room with children, and that in that space, it is easy to tell. So maybe there's a procedure that kids use to tell, like maybe there's a box where they can slip a red flag, or they can slip a note to their teacher, or maybe there's a hand signal you have that will alert you for like an emergency so that that child can get your attention and tell you whatever it is they need to tell you when they're having red flag problems or even other problems too. We want to make sure it's easy for kids to communicate. Um, and then at the very end, we're almost done. There is a great article that I wanted to share with you, thechildmind.org. They have a list of the top 44 social emotional learning books about mental health. I Said No is on there, but so are 43 other incredible books that really should be in every classroom, in every center, any place where children are. This is a, go grab for your bookshelf. And in the body safety for young children, I have this is just an example of like a lesson that you can grab and different ways and extension activities to teach the topic in your class or wherever, maybe homeschool, all in the book. And then this is, well, thank you for listening. This is a list. The scan me over here is a list of my top 15 body safety books that I share with parents and that I use when I teach. And then over here is my Instagram, which is Tough Topics Mom. I noticed there's a typo here. And my website is kimberlykingbooks.com, not kimberlykingbooks.com. So sorry about that. And I am happy to take any of your questions, or if you want to type them in the chat. I might have missed some because I was talking, but are there any questions? Feel free to type in the chat. Yeah, the Panosaurus, yes. All right. Well, if you think of anything and you would like to get more information, you can email me at kimberlykingbooks@gmail.com, or you can follow me over on Tough Topics Mom because I monitor all my DMs and I'm always in there answering questions and helping and would be happy to share. If you have an idea of something that you want to know more about, I can create a reel or some slides for you for whatever your situation is and make something easy to for you to share. So that is all I have. So thank you so much for coming. And I think there is a coupon on is that right on the,
Yes, yes. So
yes.
Kimberly was kind enough to share her I Said No books with us. So you can find those on our website. And if you type in promo code I Said No, you get 20% off. All
Yay.
those proceeds go back to Not Today to help us further prevention. But please also support Kimberly in purchasing her new book that's just come out and her updated version of the book too. So
I'll
we're,
show you. That's this one.
yes, thank
That's the new book.
we are.
Yeah, that would be great. And one thing I would love to mention to everybody is that the I Said No book is for sale on Amazon, but it's used copies, and some of the prices vary from like $22 to $54. So it's probably much better to buy it from you all because you basically have unused copies, which is nice.
Awesome. Well, we so appreciate it. And I messed up the promo code. It's I said no 20. Shelby
I
corrected me.
said no 20. Okay.
So thank you, Shelby. Kimberly, now that we've totally wrapped up, I do have a question for you. If
Yes.
you don't mind. I feel like some of the pushback that we hear from parents is that they're afraid to have too many of these conversations because they think it's putting these ideas in their children's head. It might make them paranoid. Can you speak to why that's not the case?
Yeah. And I have had that question a number of times. It's definitely not the case because we have to think about it from an education point. Our kids have to learn these safety skills in order to understand body boundaries and consent and body autonomy. It's something that is developmentally appropriate to teach them, just like teaching them to buckle themselves into a car. It's like wearing a bike helmet. It's critical information. And where kids are finding things to repeat is when we let kids loose on, like YouTube Kids or HBO videos or, anywhere on the internet. Anybody sees something and comes into my classroom and repeats it. And then the next thing you know, we've got 10 kids laughing about something that somebody saw on an inappropriate cartoon. So you want your kids to know these things as early as possible. And when you teach that early, it doesn't even, make them blink. It's just like part of a normal conversation, which helps protect them. So yeah, I have heard that question before. One thing I will say is that if you are to start reading the I Said No book and if you were to read all of these books every day for like a month to your child and make it like urgent, that is not a good strategy because I did have in all of the years that I have taught and wrote on this topic, I did have one mom say to me, "Well, I bought your book and I read it every day for 2 months, and my daughter reported that she was abused." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And she says, "Well, but she wasn't abused. She told me because she thought I wanted her to tell." Because, it's like tell a safe adult. And she kept asking her daughter, "Did anybody touch you? Did it?" And like the mom was relentless with these questions all the time and the topic all the time. And it just, the daughter was like, "Yeah, fine, somebody touched me." And so that you don't want to do. You don't want to overwhelm. You just have to take it one step at a time.
That's helpful. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
speaking to that. And thank you again for your time. Anyone else have any?
Thank you.
I will say, Kimberly, and thank you for you just gave some great information. I love that you talked about the what if scenarios, which I just think that's such a good way to just open up conversations with your kiddos and just those what if scenarios. You're throwing just some basic, like you talked about the first one you gave, just a basic what if scenario, along with, some other scenarios. What if you are on a video game and this pops up and that. So I love that you shared that. And which I've heard that many, many times before, but I have never heard of the think, say, do. putting them with that what if scenario. So I thought that was really, really great to ask.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that the Think Say Do is, I don't, it's in the I Said No book, but it's just something I've always used as a teacher. I teach kindergarten. So it's one of these things that's just like a problem solving strategy that kids can remember and then they can do it themselves.
Love it.
So
Thank you so much, Kimberly. We appreciate your time and
thank you.
yeah, take care. Thank you all.
All right, take care.